hit with an AK-47 and a 5-inch, you know, like, I don't know, bandolero, or I don't know what it is, but okay, a lot of bullets, no will to, you know, empathy. But the Nietzschean Superman reference, though, isn't that a little bit incorrect? Because didn't Nietzsche say something about the idea that Supermen don't really have any obligation towards the lesser people? If you are one of the few Supermen in the world, if you are one of the few ultimate beings, you don't care or shouldn't care what the lesser forms of humans are doing. It's your job to move humanity forward, but not help them. And I disagree with that in that respect. I don't think that I should, if I were that Superman, I wouldn't say, all right, well, I'm going to keep moving humanity forward. Fuck you people. I'd say, well, you know, come on, take it easy. Oh yeah, for sure. I love you too.
Bye everyone. Bye.
All right, now we got a gap. Let's see what you're filling a gap.
To be fair though, I just love all black people, so that's.
All right, next topic, racism. Oh yeah.
Sorry, what was that? Racism. Isn't that like reverse racism?
All right. Oh. All right, we get more back.
How does one refine the soul if they're not focused on altruistic, beneficial?
Right. I don't know if it's a contradiction, but it definitely struck me as odd. It seems incongruous to. It struck me as incongruous to just say that as a reincarnated being, my job is to refine the soul, but at the same time, I'm not going to do. Why do I have to do, or why am I obligated to do, you know, altruistic acts for humanity? How else are you going to refine the soul? I don't necessarily.
Wait, are you saying that the only way? It seems like the only way to. I mean, the definition of refinement is actually bettering humanity.
Right.
Because if you
think of it like sharpening a knife, you have to sharpen it on, you know, a whetstone or something like that. You're not going to sharpen it by banging it against a wall, you know, on the handle side. There is one specific way to sharpen a knife, and in that respect, I think we're taking the position that there is only one way to refine the soul. Because she was talking about getting to paradise. She didn't just say going to paradise or going to hell or getting punished. She was talking about going to paradise, and she seemed to allude to the sentiment that refining the soul meant bettering the self or the soul, or maybe they're interchangeable, I don't know, until they were able or eligible to enter paradise. And if you're able to enter paradise by being a prick, what's the point of refining the soul?
I need a little more clarification on the way she was using the word soul, because we're using it for the betterment of humanity.
I just said, because we're not talking about the soul right now, so I just said, as soon as she said that, I said, all right.
I think to clarify, I think you're talking about something Marjorie said, right?
Yeah,
she gave a definition.
We're just trying to
I believe she was alluding to one of the counter-arguments to the problem of evil alluded to in Philosophy 101, which is towards the very end of the semester, which is probably why some people maybe aren't quite familiar with it, but it's basically one guy said, oh, there's this process of soul making, and you have to, you know, and he basically believed in universal salvation, even though he was technically considered Christian, but you know, it was obviously far from traditional, what are considered traditionally Christian beliefs, and he believed in universal salvation, the sort of this, you know, reincarnation, and you're building your soul through, you know, going through the murky waters that are life, and you know, and it's sort of a belief in that vein.
But just for clarification's sake, because you seem to know more about it than at least myself, I don't know if anyone else here, but the murky waters of life that kind of struck me, does that mean that you build your soul by hardship, or does that mean you build your soul by hardship and then still maintaining some sort of altruistic or positive outlook?
Pretty much the latter. As you have to understand, this was an argument against the problem of evil, which is basically the argument that there's a logical stress between believing there is a being that is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good. And basically they're saying, within this Christian context, oh, it's not that, you know, my God's a prick, it's that he has to test us with these sort of trials of life that eventually develop our soul so we can reach paradise.
Yeah, and I would think that while I don't agree with that, I also think that is a, to put it charitably, inappropriate argument to use when we're discussing immortality.
I do believe so, but I believe I was just saying that I believe that's
right. I'm not saying that's your position. I'm just saying that my answer.
That's where her argument derived, and then I believe it also focuses on a very unnecessary belief that the concept of the soul has to be like tethered to the body.
Right.
Which, you know, if anything, to me, it makes the most sense that if there is a soul in the Christian tradition, it shouldn't be connected, because one, it would have to represent the non-physical mind. And let's face it, if you have a knife in your frontal lobe, you're going to lose some intelligence. Your personality's going to change. And the non-physical mind would seem like it should be able to avoid that. Secondly, it fits perfectly within that cheesy, guardian angel idea. If anything, the soul should be flying around whispering in your ear, telling you what you should and shouldn't be doing, because that would be benefiting the soul. Because if you go throughout life right, you don't end up in a pit of fire. So that makes most sense to me.
Yeah, but if you don't go through that pit of fire, then that wasn't your trial and tribulation, your murky waters.
Well, no, he was talking about what he believed, and then before that, the murky waters thing was talking about what I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, what he was espousing Marjorie's belief.
Well, maybe not Margie's exact belief, but
what
maybe what she was deriving her comments from.
But it wasn't his specific belief.
When we're speaking of immortality, we're speaking of, in our context, we're speaking of this actual, keeping this body, right?
Yeah.
And
so let's just
maintaining
let's just say you tripped and fell and got knocked out and woke up and all of a sudden you were immortal. But I mean that's same clothes, same physical condition. I mean,
you fell into the Grand Canyon and you actually woke up and started walking. You are the Highlander.
Holy shit!
Of course, Highlanders weren't technically immortal because they could die and their heads got cut off.
Right.
But close enough.
Right. Would you need to eat at that point? Because I know eating's a necessity. There's repeatable pleasures. I'm sure you guys understood that. Like sex is something you want to do in repetition. There's I don't know.
Just once for me.
Yeah, that's what kind of confused me when she said that we'd be working forever. What would we work for? Because if we don't have to eat, if we don't have those basic...
Let me just lay this out for simplicity's sake. As I understood the question when you first asked it last week, would you want to be immortal or die today? In the same way that I understood dying today means I'm dead right this minute, I understood immortal to mean I am free from any sort of... I don't need to breathe, I don't need to eat, I don't need to work, I don't need to, I don't need to live in a house or things like that. I mean, I may feel pain. Like if I get stabbed, it may hurt, but it's not going to kill me. If I get my head cut off, it may hurt, but I can still just pick it up and, plop it right back on. Or maybe I'm carrying my head. Maybe I can't catch it. Maybe I'm carrying my head for the rest of the thing, but it's still self-sustainable. I understood the idea of immortal as being completely immune to death in any sense. I can't starve. I can't freeze. I can't, die from sleeplessness or whatever. I can't do any of that. So that's how I understood it. So I mean, if she wants to work as an immortal, if Marjorie feels that that's what she would need to do, that's cool. No one's stopping you. But I don't think it's strictly speaking necessary.
Well, I don't believe it's necessary either. But maybe it's an allusion to a quality of life issue. You're accustomed to not being cold and living in a house. You might want to work so you could continue to live in a house.
Right, and that's your decision. But by no means is it required.
Technically, no.
I think the problem with immortality is we're so tied with this logic-based system that we have to justify how to be immortal. I mean, throw out logic and just say, I'm immortal. You can just say it right now, I'm immortal. But then you have to justify that, right? I mean, you have to say, you have to give reasons based on why you're immortal. But if we're in Alice in Wonderland, we can all say, yeah, we're all gods, we're all immortal. Why not? I mean, what's stopping me from saying that? Well, because then you have to justify why you're aging and all this stuff. So it's like we're trapped in this logical,
logical bubble.
Well, we're confined by our language. So I mean, if somebody says I'm immortal and you don't
like Jesus, for example, he said I'm God, right? And everyone said, well, I don't know about that. Some people said, there was some controversy.
Right.
Well, I suppose the only way we can know about it, and to a very limited extent, is I guess by use of a logical tool, negation. And we could say, well, we're not. So we could say that we're definitely not like humans. We're not like any breathing creatures. We're not like certain mental things that are able to abstract in things.
Because I know the Buddhists attempt to do that. They try to negate things by just saying, comparing this and the opposite together and say, I am this and I am not this. I am, this is, I am dead and I am not dead. They try to negate all this logic and like blow it away in the smithereens and just kind of